Patch 11.1 is nearly here, so I wanted to run through 10 tips and tricks to help you out when the patch goes live. And this first tip isn't actually one of the tips for the video, but I did want to kick this off because it's one of the more important things to know, just in case you do get confused. But the patch quest line will kick off in the Foundation Hall within Dornogal, so you want to head to that big old building and there'll be a quest line for you to pick up there. Go through that and you will unlock yourself the new zone. Now once you do get the new zone unlocked, there is going to be a portal, and that's what I wanted to mention as the first tip. So once you get into the zone, you do the first quest lines there. There should be an NPC where I'm showing you now. You'll have a quest and you'll complete this quest, go through the portal, and now you've got yourself a portal that will take you directly from Dornogal back to the zone, making it very quick to keep your Hearthstone in Dornogal. You can just jump on that teleporter, go straight to the Undermined and continue your journey. If you want to, you could also set your Hearthstone in Undermined now because it's very quick to get back to that major city, so it's up to you which way around you want to do things. The next tip is going to be to grab yourself a contract. There's going to be contracts for the Undermined, the Cartels of Undermined faction, and people are going to get these very quick, at least the serious players. They're going to be able to go get their hands on Renowned 5 probably in the first day or two, and then they should start pumping out contracts. These will probably be quite expensive in the beginning though, so you might want to wait a few days before you do pick one up, but they're very useful to have because they'll work on the current world quests. They'll also work on the old world quests, for example in Hallowfall, and there's certain objectives and side gig quest lines that you can do weekly that will also class as world quests, so you'll get an additional rep from completing those too. So having a contract active while you're doing the content will net you quite a bit of extra reputation. The next tip is going to be for the G99 Breakneck, which will be your main way of getting around the new zone, and for this my main tip is just to use your arrow keys. Don't bother with mouse. In the beginning you may feel compelled to use your mouse to control the car if you're used to using that for dragon riding or just generally moving your character in general, but I would definitely take your hand off the mouse while you're controlling the car and just get used to using your WASD. Even if you've got the A and D set to strafe, that's completely fine. Whether it's keyboard turn or strafe, they'll both work completely fine for this, and it just allows you to get around the zone a little bit easier, gets you used to drifting better. It's just generally better for controlling the car, so I definitely would recommend it. The next tip is going to be for completing your weekly quests as quickly as possible. There'll be 3 weekly quests for you to pick up. One is to do these 3 scrapping events. The next is to do 10 shipping and handling tasks, and the final one is to take part in a price surge. What I would recommend doing is starting your kind of weekly quests around 20 past the hour, so 20 past 2, 20 past 3, and you're going to start with the scrapping task. You're going to do a scrapping task, you're going to go to the next one, you're going to get all 3 of those knocked out in about 7 minutes, and then once you're done with that, start your shipping and handling. The time should be about 27 minutes past the hour, and once you get about 4 of these done, it should now tick over to be half past the hour, and that is when the price surge event begins. It begins at 3:30, 4:30, 5:30, etc. So now you've got a chunk of your shipping and handling weekly done. The price surge event is active, which also ties into shipping and handling. You'll be continuing to finish your shipping and handling. You should get yourself a box which gives you credit towards the price surge event, and now within like an extra 4 or 5 minutes, you've knocked out your 10 shipping and handling, and you completed your price surge weekly. So within about 15 minutes, you've completed all 3 of your weekly quests, and that is all of it done. The next tip is going to be the daily rares. There's going to be about 10 rares in the zone that you can kill every single day for 20 reputation each, but you should also consider killing these on your ults as well. You won't get reputation, but there are 2 things that you will get that are quite important, or at least potentially useful to you. The first is going to be Bind on Warband gear, and this is going to be adventure gear, and in season 2, adventure gear goes all the way to 632, which is probably going to be a lot of upgrades for your ults. You can pick this up as Warband gear, so you can send it straight to that alt character and equip it, and it only costs Valor Stones for most of the upgrades, and then Weathered Crests and Valor Stones for the rest of the upgrades, so this isn't even going to impact the kind of important steps of gearing either. You can just blast those out with no real care, so it's going to be a pretty good way of gearing up your characters, and in some cases this might be good gear for your main character as well, depending on how much you've played the initial expansion. But not only that, killing these rares daily on a main character and also your alt characters will give you a chance of picking up these machine parts. More specifically, they're called Miscellaneous Mechanica, and if you get 25 of these and turn them into the NPC I'm showing you now, you'll be able to pick up a mount, but there's going to be 3 mounts you can pick up. But not only that, these are bind on equip, so meaning if you can pick up one of these early on in the expansion or in the patch, you're probably going to be able to sell it for a lot of gold because these parts are quite rare. So if you can get one early enough, people will probably pay pretty good gold for these, especially the more serious collectors. So if you've got some extra time on your hand and a lot of of alt characters, this could be a way of gearing up your account and also getting some gold on the side too. The next tip is holding off on a lot of the main tasks until the Darkmoon Fair begins, because the very first week the patch comes out, a few days later on that following weekend, the Darkmoon Fair will begin, and this is going to give you that big chunk of reputation gain towards your main campaigns, your side quests, all that kind of stuff. So I would recommend doing the bare minimum to get you into the zone, and then just doing the tasks that are going to expire, like the daily rares or your world quests, and saving the bigger chunk of rep until you have your Darkmoon Fair active, and then knock it all out, because you will be getting a big chunk of extra reputation, which will definitely be quite nice. The next tip is making sure you're still going back to Dawn Ogal to pick up the weekly quests, because those are still going to be relevant. The Dungeon Weekly has now been updated to give you 1,500 reputation with the Cartels of Undermined, and the other quests like the World Soul have also been updated with Undermined tasks too. So you can pick those up, you can get your veteran box, which will give you a veteran piece of gear during the season, it'll give you a key for delves, all that kind of good stuff, so do make sure you're still going back and picking up those quests. There's a couple of tips to give for the checklist system as well. Now the checklist, I'll explain what that is in a moment, but before I do, it's meant to be a renowned 13 perk, but currently on the PTR and basically the entire time on the PTR, people have been able to get this under 13, basically at renowned level 1. So we're not too sure if it's intended that you're meant to get it whenever and the renowned track hasn't been updated properly, or if it's a bug that you're able to get it whenever. Either way, whenever you are able to get the checklists, this is going to be a task from the robot at the top stairs of the hotel. It'll give you a list of things to do in the zone, for example, kill some rares, or do some races, or do the delves, and every time you complete a task, you'll be able to click on the checklist and get some Valor Stones for doing it. The first tip I've got is if you actually wait to click confirm on the task and wait until you've got multiple tasks stacked up, you can claim more than the 4, and you'll actually gain some extra Valor Stones for doing that. So it just allows you to squeeze out a little bit more Valor. Once your checklist is finished, you can do 2 things with it. Most people think you just hand it into the robot in the hotel, and doing that will give you more Valor Stones, which is nice, but alternatively, you can actually hand it in to your sub-cartel. So you'll pick a sub-cartel for the week, you complete your checklist, and then go to the sub-cartel quartermaster, and you'll be able to trade it in for a bag, which will give you 500 reputation and some gold. So if your goal is to maximize reputation and you don't really care for the extra Valor Stones, this is a good use of your checklist. On top of that as well, currently on the PTR, you can do these checklists on alts and hand them in for even more reputation. Who knows if that'll make it to live servers, but if it does, this allows you to squeeze out even more reputation each week. And if you're interested in squeezing out even more reputation, the next tip will help with that too. Once your weekly reset comes and you can pick a cartel to faction for the week, if you pick a different one to the one that you picked in the previous week, for example, last week you picked Blackwater, and this week you pick up Steamweedle, you will end up with a few more world quests to do over if you picked Blackwater and then Blackwater back to back. It just kind of gives you a bit of a backlog of world quests that you weren't able to do because you didn't have that cartel active. So you will gain more reputation with your sub-cartels by doing this, allowing you to rank them up slightly faster. So essentially just make sure you pick a new cartel week to week. You could go back and forth between the same 2 if you want, or you can rotate between all 4. That is up to you. Just make sure you pick a different one every week. And to close out the video, I had one final thing I wanted to mention. Not so much a tip, but for anyone with a profession that's basically bricked, they are adding an NPC into 11.1 that will allow you to completely reset your spec points for your profession. So if you have a bad profession set up, you can now reset it only once though, so make sure you go the right spec this time round, which will allow you to kind of have a clean slate and go again and have your setup that you prefer. So hopefully some of the tips in this video were useful to you in your 11.1 journey. If you come across any tips that you think would be useful to other people as well, make sure you share them in the comments down below so everyone's having the best time they can in 11.1. Outside of that, look out for more guides coming soon. Thanks for watching guys. See ya.